So you want to learn how to upcycle in 2025? I got you. I truly believe that upcycling is the future of fashion, and when I started my upcycling journey back in 2021, there was really no information on it, no videos. I kind of was just winging it, and I've learned so much in the past 3 years, and my mission has just become to make sewing and upcycling as accessible as possible. Therefore, this channel was born. I just think it's such a beautiful skill, and it's honestly one of the best things that I've ever taught myself. I think that there's so much beauty and love into grabbing something that has been discarded and just breathing new life into it and restoring it. I think it's such a great universal skill to have. Now you're probably curious, like, what is upcycling? Everyone has sort of their own definition, but to me, it's the process of grabbing something old or something secondhand and turning it into something better. Usually with upcycling is you take kind of a rudimentary design and then you kind of transform it into something a little bit more stylish, more polished, a little bit more efficient. The way that I see it is sort of like recycling plus a little creativity equals upcycling. Truly, the possibilities are endless. There's really no right or wrong way to do it, and everyone has sort of their own interpretation because everyone has like their unique POV, and that's what I absolutely love about it. For me, upcycling has really helped me develop my own personal style. I like to do fun and wacky things. I think that fashion is taken so seriously sometimes, and I just think it should be playful and fun and whimsical. And also at the end of it, it's storytelling, right? You tell someone, hey, I made my jacket out of a quilt that I found at the thrift store. I think that is just so fun, and it just brings about so many great conversations. Let's talk a little bit about tools. You won't need a lot of things, but it is good to have these in your inventory because this will really help you sort of break down garments, cut them up, do all of that. All of the tools that I'm going to be talking about are listed in my Amazon storefront, but you can get these at any supply/craft store. Arguably one of the best tools for upcycling is going to be a seam ripper. When you thrift garments, when you thrift linens, you want to obviously seam rip the old seams so that you can use as much real estate of the fabric as possible, and this will make it super easy for you. I honestly buy a pack of like 20 at a time because they start like spreading out all over my room. These are super affordable. Some other little tools that are very helpful are going to be fabric shears. I got these off Amazon. I think it was like $15. When it comes to your fabric shears, I want you to be a tough little soldier and only use this with fabric. If you start cutting paper, if you start cutting like miscellaneous things, it's gonna lose its sharpness and therefore it's basically gonna become obsolete. So make sure that your fabric shears are only cutting fabric and like cloth. Promise the sacrifice will be worth it in the end. Another really handy tool that I used a lot when I first started upcycling is E6000. I think that this is the best glue. I've probably bought like 20 of these at this point. When I first started upcycling, I would even make like hems. I wouldn't even sew them down, I would just glue them down. This has survived so many rounds of washing, the weather, like literally this glue is so good. I love this glue so much. Another tool that I would recommend is just a measuring tape. This is going to help you measure some stuff, measure your own body. This is very important. I also want to give just a quick shout out to fabric markers and fabric pens and even bleach. When I first started my upcycling journey, I didn't want to dive into sewing just yet, so I would literally just paint on jeans, I would paint on purses, I would make these little smiley face stencils, and then I would put bleach on top of them, and I would make this like bleach smiley face print on like denim. You wouldn't believe how just like a simple design on something can just elevate it and make it so personal, so I highly recommend doing that as well. As far as sewing machine, I've seen a lot of sewing machines at thrift stores for a really low cost. Also, to check your sewing supply stores, I have one that's like 15 minutes away from me, and they actually have a whole secondhand station. They serve as a repair shop, but they also sell secondhand machines. They have really great machines for a really great affordable price, and it's a guarantee that they work because there's technicians on site, so you're really getting such a good value. And then lastly, obviously, you're gonna need to get clothes or some type of material, and I would just always recommend going into your closet first. I know that there are things in there that you do not wear anymore, and just grab just an old shirt and use that to practice on. Even before going to the thrift store, just go into your closet, grab that old t-shirt that you never wear anymore, and then start practicing your stitches, start practicing a new hem, cut off the sleeves. You really shouldn't be buying fabric just yet. You need to be practicing on discarded things. And then once you start feeling a little bit more comfortable around the sewing machine, go to the thrift stores. I think that there are so many beautiful, yummy prints at the thrift store. I recently found just this beautiful green linen at the thrift store, and I made it into a vest. And it's like, could I have found that at Joann's? Maybe, but it was 100% cotton and it cost me like $2.99. I have so much of it left over that I'm so excited to use it on another project. Okay, so now let's jump into some really easy, beginner-friendly upcycling techniques. When I first started out, I did these all the time until I became more comfortable constructing garments. You do not need to be a sewing goat. You do not need to be a sewing pro when it comes to these. I did these a lot when I first started sewing. First technique that's gonna get you super comfortable in upcycling and sewing is going to be cropping. So again, go to your closet, grab that little t-shirt that you've had for years and just give it a new hem. Chop it up. This will teach you how to fold, how to do the proper sewing tensions, how to do like the appropriate cuts. This will even teach you how to cut in a straight line, just like little stuff like that. That's really going to shape your brain and get you in a more design oriented like mindset. So the second technique is going to just be patchwork. So one of my favorite things to thrift ever are things with stain on them, because we as sewists have the power to put a little patch over it. Maybe you have a pair of old jeans that have some stains on it and you can put some like really beautiful quilted patches over it. You can do like patches of different denim like washes over it. That would be so cute. I mentioned this briefly, but just painting or bleaching on garments, I think is such a fun way to personalize whatever it is that you're upcycling. And you'd be so surprised how easy that is, but it'll transform a garment like you wouldn't believe. Lastly, and probably my biggest tip of all, is to avoid clothing at first and just jump into making accessories at first. With clothing, there's a lot of like proportions and like sizing elements that's very counterintuitive when you're first starting to learn how to upcycle. With accessories, that's not really a problem. I would just go into a little scrap fabric pile and I would just grab long strips and I would make like scrunchies, your book covers or your book holders, your tote bags, little pouches, fabric bookmarks. Obviously, size and dimensions of those things matter, but it's not clothing, so it won't matter as much if you like accidentally mess up. So I highly recommend starting with accessories first. Okay, another tip that I have for you is to start training your eye and your mind into seeing things as multifunctional. And honestly, this takes time, so don't worry if this takes you a while, because it took me probably over a year. Earlier this year, I ended up finding a beautiful bed skirt. It was like this floral with this really beautiful lace trim. And I knew that I could use this lace trim for other projects. Like I really wanted to make these cute boxers, and I knew that I wanted to do sort of a lace trim on the bottom hem. And I knew that this at the craft store is like $8 a yard. And I ended up getting so much of it because I ended up getting a whole bed skirt. And I just seam ripped this lace and I ended up getting like over 10 yards of lace. And I think the bed skirt ended up being like close to $4. That at the thrift store would have easily cost me over $80. So just training your mind and your eyes to see things in a multifunctional way is going to help you so much in your upcycling journey. I really hope that this video inspires you to go into your closet and grab that item that you literally haven't worn in ages and just put a little love into it. I think the whole upcycling process is so magical. You literally get to see something transform from one thing to the other. And I just love that process so much. Upcycling, not to make it too poetic or too deep, has really changed my life and the way that I see clothing and how I get dressed and all these things. I think it's such a beautiful art, and it's sustainable too, right? Like it's cost efficient, it's great for the planet, and you get to make like fun, wacky things that no one else in the world has. Don't be afraid to experiment. Upcycling is all about trial and error. Honestly, being a beginner at something is truly the most humbling thing ever, but don't give up, keep experimenting, keep practicing. You're going to become a master upcycler in no time, I just know it. So yeah, start small and don't worry about perfection, and most importantly, just have fun with it. It's supposed to be fun and wacky and silly and amazing. I'm going to dedicate all of 2025 to posting more on here. A big part of my life is upcycling, so you can expect a lot of upcycling tutorials and fun little sewing vlogs, thrifting adventures, and yeah, just a girl that loves all things like clothing, but sustainable clothing and making them. Truly, at the end of the day, I want to be your upcycling bestie, your upcycling big sister. I will be seeing you in 2025. We will be sewing along together, and yeah, have a wonderful rest of your year. I'll see you so soon. Bye.